today. And the first is tight ends. So we've had an ongoing discussion here, Ferris, on tight ends, and can they be the main receiving threat for the Michigan offense? We've had people like Antoine, I don't know if he's here today, but talking about we don't even need wide receivers. Let's just have Colston Loveland in there, Marlon Klein, put Bredesen in as a fullback, throw Zach Marshall in there, and let's just go with tight ends. And those could be a main receiving threat. Where do you fall on the tight end usage, like in terms of Kirk Campbell's offense and what we might see with Kirk Campbell at the helm?
Yeah, the thing about Michigan is they are such a tough matchup for other teams. I can't wait. I really hope Michigan makes it to the playoffs because a team that's new to Michigan is going to have a lot of trouble with Michigan. And I do think that the tight end position is where a huge mismatch would happen. And you're going to have to start playing players out of position to be able to cover Michigan. And Colston Loveland could be one of the top 50 players in college football. Maybe he is already, right? So can you get the ball to him? Can you get a jump ball to him 10 yards down the field? And can he do another 10 yards of yards after catch? And is that the bread and butter of the Michigan offense? I think against most teams, 9 out of the 12 games, that could happen. Michigan could be vanilla, and it doesn't really matter that everybody knows that Loveland's going to get the ball. He's going to get the ball, and he's going to get 20 yards on many plays just doing that. Catching the ball 10 yards downfield and then just giving us another 10 yards, right? So, but in the other 3 games, in the big 3 games, maybe the USC game, maybe the Washington game, a couple other games like that. We may need to score a little bit more. We may need to, go off script a little bit. I do think we need wide receivers. And I also think we need wide receivers for the health of our program long-term, because we are shifting from a 61, 62% running team. We may ratchet that down a few notches and pass more in 2025, 2026, et cetera, as we're getting a different talent set with our team. So, do not discount our wide receivers is what I would say. But I think we could be pretty vanilla, and Loveland can probably win a lot of one-on-ones for sure. The whole tight end room can.
Yeah. Real quick, we'll get back to tight ends. I'm just going to remind everybody in chat to be cool. Okay? As I say in Pulp Fiction, be cool. All right? Because at the end of the day, everybody respect each other. I don't care if you're a Buckeye. I don't care if you're a Wolverine. Just, keep it to football. Keep it to debate of each other's positions versus each other and actually coming at each other. That would be appreciated across the board. And if not, we're going to be, I don't have the time to do 2 warnings. So there's going to be some timeouts if we don't just stop with the personal attack. So please just be cool, help each other out. Learn, the rules are posted everywhere, but we really appreciate just some support there. And our mods, as always, do a great job. So thank you for that. But, as far as the receiving threat, look, Colston Loveland can be utilized in any aspect, from a 2-yard out to an 80-yard deep shot downfield, potentially. Like at the end of the day, like you can utilize Colston in almost every even in an X for like a play. And if you look at if you've been playing, and I know you have, Ferris, but College Football 25, Colston Loveland is used everywhere. And because he's so tall, he's really easy to throw to on almost any play. And he's very rarely fully covered in like a man coverage situation, because what they do is they do like tight end option, or they do like a slant route or like a special route for the tight end when everybody else is doing a different route. So because of that, Colston Loveland gets open very often in College Football 25. I think that'll be the case there. I'm hearing Marlon Klein in some areas might even be better than this is what Isaiah Hole, I believe, has said, and some others, that in some areas, I don't really know exactly where the calculus is there, but he's at least going to be on that other side of the line, he's going to be a problem for defenses. And Bredesen, I would like to see what I saw in the spring game. Bredesen actually catching some balls. They weren't pretty. They weren't going for 30 yards, but he was able to do it. We showed with Alex Orji connecting with Bredesen that it can be done. And I love that wrinkle, and I hope we see that wrinkle a little bit. But at the end of the day, they all need to block too, right? So if it's a wide receiver play, they need to block too, and we'll get to wide receivers in a bit. But this shouldn't surprise anybody who's been following this program for more than a couple of weeks, that we think Colston Loveland is going to be the starting tight end, usually utilized on the right-hand side of the line. Marlon Klein utilized on the left-hand side, potentially a slot situation, but a little bit more of a tight end, second tight end for receiving, whereas Max Bredesen is more of a second tight end for blocking plays. Kind of we don't have a fullback anymore, but like the de facto fullback on a play where a fullback would be used in an I formation or whatever. But how do you feel about those three? Any flips you would make, or do you kind of like them where they are, and kind of where are you at with these guys?
Yeah, I like where they are until we know more about what Klein can do better than Loveland, because Loveland, like I said, is a top 50 player in the game. All of them need to be great blockers. I mean, that's the cool thing about Michigan, that we do not have even our everyone has to be able to block or tackle, right? So the 61, 62% of the time that we're running, they need to still be an asset there as well. And I think they will be. It is so cool that if we have somebody who's even 70, 60% of Colston Loveland on the field at the same time, the matchup nightmare it must be for the opposition. For those of you who play College Football 25, dare I say Colston Loveland is a cheat code? I guess maybe I'll say it. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, might as well. It's on theme for the show.
So, I think that's what's going to happen in reality for most of Michigan's opponents. I'm not saying that's going to happen, against Oregon or OSU. It'll just be easy. It doesn't matter what they do. Just keep feeding him the ball. No, you've got to spread the ball. You've got to go deep. You've got to keep the defense honest. But most of the time, that's going to be a security blanket, either on the run or the pass, the tight end position. That is our strength.
Yeah, and obviously when we go down the list, right, we see Deacon Tonielli, we see Zach Marshall, and both of these guys have shown flashes of what they could do. Zach Marshall and I had a conversation, and we discussed, how he was going to try to break out a little bit more. He had a little bit of playing time his first year, but he was going to use that as a chip on the shoulder and really just trust in the Herbert way and the Tress way when it comes to strength and conditioning. Even the players that are on depth have a great head on their shoulders, and their number's going to get called early because we have games against teams called Fresno State and Arkansas State, and you're going to see some of these guys.
Yeah, and that's the MO of Michigan as well, to give multiple players experience, and the position is so important for Michigan that we've got to prepare in case there is an injury too. So I completely agree with you. It'll be a little interesting, the Fresno State game, because on the one hand, are we going to be vanilla and a lot of backups playing? On the other hand, we do have to do kind of a dress rehearsal for a huge game that's game 2. So I'm very interested in seeing what the strategy will be against Fresno State. Some people have said, hey, take the under with Fresno State. I would kind of agree with that just on the surface, because Michigan's going to be experimenting with different things. I could see them, not, trying to put the gas pedal and just blow teams out. Maybe there'll be some rotation, there'll be backups put in. But on the other hand, they do need to prepare for Texas, and it's prepare versus give them tape. So it's kind of like, what do you want to do? Do you want to be vanilla, or do you want to get the dress rehearsal right? That game in particular will be interesting. Arkansas State, maybe that's the game, going back to the first half of our podcast today, maybe that's a game that Sharon Moore will just say, you know what, I'll just take this one game off and we'll call it good. The Arkansas State game, that's where you're going to see much more rotation, in my opinion. Or it's much more obvious that there'll be rotation. So
sure. And, Dependent Fanatic just gave you kudos for how you put that. I agree. I think that's great. I think, Fresno State is literally the only chance we have against live fire before, other than playing each other, right, in practice. But the only chance that Michigan has to try things out, to try different combinations, and then go in the Texas game and do what they can do there. So, and Blue Wolverine, of course, also saying, we're so close now. This season is so close. Who's ready? $4.99. Ferris, are you ready?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I used to have mixed emotions because oh, it's time to go back to school now, but I get football, so it's kind of like that kind of thing. Or, I like the summer weather, whatever, but now it's football. But now the weather here where I'm at, and same thing with you, it doesn't snow or whatever. It doesn't get so it's like, yeah, I'm ready for football. It's time. It's time that we play actual games. I'm tired of all this kind of sideshow stuff. I just want to see actual games. The college football 25, that was a little appetizer. That was something you could do. It was a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's cool. But it's still not real games. I can't wait for real games to happen. Just a quick note, we are going to be doing a pre-game show as well as a post-game show for games this year. I'll be heading up the pre-game show. Very interested if you want to put it in the comments or whatever as to what you'd want to see in that pre-game show. We do have a little bit of an agenda, but we know that you may be on multiple devices at the same time. Maybe you're watching a pre-game show on TV, etc. So you let us know what you think should be some of the content, and I'll take a look.
So I'm encouraging everybody here. Go ahead and tell us in chat for both the pregame and the postgame shows, because I'm open to switching up how we do the postgame show. How we did it last year is not going to reflect, and this was the case the year before too. We change it every year. Last year we turned it into a little bit more of a call-in show. And we talked about the 5 key points, the 5 key reasons for victory. We never had to do one for the 5 key reasons for defeat because we didn't lose. So that was great. But that's what we kind of did. But look, both pregame and postgame, let us know what your thoughts are, especially if you're a YouTube member. Yours get obviously put to the top because you're a monthly contributor. But those of you who are just checking us out, let us know too. So let's go ahead and talk X Factor, Sleeper, and Bold Prediction for the tight ends. Who's yours for each one?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say because we have 2 very strong candidates who would be. But I guess the obvious thing is Colston Loveland, right? So. And sleeper, is Marlon Klein a sleeper? I guess I'll call him a sleeper if Marlon Klein is going to be at a Colston Loveland level, and we have a dual threat at at tight end. I'll just go with that. A bold prediction. Can we predict that tight end receiving yards will be more than wide receiver yards? I don't think that's actually going to be the case. So I'm not going to predict that. I'm going to say maybe it is a bold prediction to say that the wide receiver yards will actually be more than tight end yards for Michigan. I don't know how many people are expecting that, but that's what I'll go with.
Yeah, not bad. I think X factor is pretty obvious. Colston Loveland. He's the best. He's the best tight. He's this year's Brock Bowers. He is the best tight end in the country. Even the Buckeyes admit it. Sleeper. I'm gonna say Zach Marshall is going to surprise everybody and start becoming into the rotation as we get to the end of the season. The reason is because, maybe I'm biased because I actually talked to him, but the way that he's approaching this impressed me. The way that he's taking that workman-like mentality, that's what Michigan needs, and I think they're going to start sprinkling him in more. We'll see how he does in fall camp. Bold prediction, Max Bredesen is going to catch a game-winning 30-yard route towards the end of the season. Max Bredesen can catch the ball.
Wow.
And we're gonna see it, and it's probably gonna be against a team that we need an extra wrinkle for. I think Texas might be too early just because they're still developing, but I think we could see it against Ohio State because there's always a couple of weird ass cuckoo bananas plays that we run against Ohio State. Yeah. Maybe that's one where Bredesen becomes more of a receiver. But yeah, anything's possible with Kirk Campbell and Sharon Moore.
Yeah, I really like that, and that's one of those things where you say, "Wait, what's going on?" And then he catches the ball, and like, "Whoa, who caught that?" That would be fantastic if that happened. I am toying with the prediction of there will be a game this year that'll be less than a touchdown, that will win by less than a touchdown against an unranked team. We'll be in trouble at some point in the fourth quarter and have to do something. Maybe it comes up then too. So maybe it's not necessarily the Oregon or Ohio State. It's hey, you know what? We got to pull some stops out here because we're going to need to win this game now, right? So that kind of happened, I think, last year with Maryland. Would you agree with that? That we. That game kept going on in the fourth quarter, and Maryland sort of kind of had a chance to win it. So arguably, I think a game will happen like that, and that is the type of play that you just you practice and then hopefully you make happen. That would be fantastic.
And friend of the program, Dependent Fanatic, good call on Hogan Hansen. Didn't include him. My bad. Maybe he can use that as bulletin board material to go up the starting. He can use the fact that I skipped him accidentally, but yeah, I think he could be good. Obviously, we know about Loveland. We know about Marlon Klein. I do think it's interesting you picked Marlon Klein as the X factor. That's a big deal. We're really high on Max Bredesen, man, and I think he's earned it. He really, I gotta say, he's put it on film. He's not just a fullback. He can really do it in the air too. And Dependent Fanatic is predicting 5 touchdowns for Max Bredesen on ground. Is that in one game or is that across the season? I'm thinking it's across the season, but maybe not. Let us know, Dependent Fanatic. Let us know.
Next prediction is going to be Max Bredesen's going to New York City. And he will be a Heisman finalist. So, okay.
Dude, by the way, I would love that if that happened. That is so pure Michigan right there.